Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today I'm going to be doing a Mutant deck profile. So I'm really excited for you guys because this deck is an extremely fun deck to play that I've included all sorts of spicy tech cards in this build for you guys. This deck also summons out some crazy powerful boss monsters, so without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description in a single video, getting a signed card sent in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month your patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Mutant MO5. This card is a great searcher for the deck because when this card is normal or special summon, you can add a mutant monster from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card. This card also has a great effect to be able to get to your boss monsters because you can tribute this card and then banish one card from your hand or face up from your field to be able to special summon out one monster from your hand or deck based on the card that you banished. If you banished a monster, you get to summon Mutant Beast, a spell, Mutant Mist, and trap Mutant Arsenal, which is really cool that it's so easy to get to your boss monsters off this card's effect. We then play 3 copies of Mutant ST46. ST46 is a definite 3-of in the deck, and when this card is normal or special summon, you can add a mutant spell or trap from your deck to your hand. And it shares the exact same effect as your MO5, that you can tribute this card and then banish card, and depending on what you banish, you get to special summon a boss monster from your deck. This card is really easy to remember which one searches which, because ST actually searches spell or trap, and M searches monster, which is just super cool about this build. We then play 3 copies of Mutant Mutant. Mutant is a really good 3-of in this particular deck because if you control a mutant card, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can also tribute this card and then banish a mutant card from your hand or deck, and then special summon one monster from your hand or deck based on the banished card. But you lose life points equal to that special summon monster's original attack. If you banish a monster, Mutant Beast, spell Mutant Mist, and trap Mutant Arsenal, which is really good to be able to get those monsters on the field. But this card is one of the best support cards that this deck has ever gotten because you can actually banish cards from the deck to be able to activate this card's effect, which is just super cool. The only downside is losing those life points because you can lose upwards of 3,000 life points depending on which monster you actually summon. We then play 2 copies of Mutant Beast. Mutant Beast is a definite 2 of the deck and is a walking spell negate for the deck. It's just a really good card because your opponent cannot target this card with monster effects. And when your opponent activates a spell or effect, quick effect, you can banish one card from your hand or field, negate the activation. If you do, banish that card. And if your opponent destroys this card, then you can target one of your banished mutant traps and add it to your hand. We then play a single copy of Mutant Arsenal. Mutant Arsenal cannot be targeted with your opponent's trap effects, and when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can banish one card from your hand or field. Then target one monster on the field and banish it, which is a really awesome effect to be able to banish a monster when your opponent activates a monster effect. But just banish a card from your hand or field. This card also says if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, then you can target one of your banished mutant spells and add it to your hand. We then play a single copy of Mutant Mist. Mutant Mist is a really good 1-of in this particular deck, but you only need a single copy of this card. It can be targeted by your opponent's spell effects, and it also has a really good effect that when your opponent activates a trap or effect, quick effect, you can banish one card from your hand or field and then draw 2 cards. And if this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can target one of your banished mutant monsters and add it back to your hand, which is a really cool effect about this card. But I love that draw 2 about this card's effect when your opponent activates a trap, which every so often will actually happen with cards like Infinite Impermanence. We then play 2 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit is a really cool 2 of in this deck because you can actually pop cards at your opponent's side of the field, which is really cool about this card. But it's also a level 3 tuner, and combo with any of your mutant boss monsters, you can actually synchro summon into an extremely powerful boss monster like your copy of Psychic in Punisher, which is a really cool card that you can actually make because your copy of Ghost Ogre is a level 3 tuner, and all of these are level 8s, which makes it super easy to make your copy of your Psychic and Punisher to be able to close out games. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is a definite 3-of in the deck and is also a level 3 tuner in this deck. But this card is really good in this build to be able to basically just stop your opponent from touching the deck, and it's just a really powerful card in this build. We then play 3 copies of psy-frame Gear Gamma and a single copy of Driver. These are in the deck because all of your low-level mutant monsters resolve by tributing themselves on your side of the field, and if your opponent tries to hit any of them with a hand trap, you can actually use Gamma and Driver to be able to stop your opponent in their tracks, which is really cool about this deck, and also protecting your plays. I love that about these cards in the deck, and they're just super helpful in this build and making sure your plays go through. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Mutant Fusion. Mutant Fusion is a really good one of the deck that helps you fusion summon into your mutant boss monsters like Synthesis. We then play 2 copies of Mutant Evolution Lab. Mutant Evolution Lab is a really good 2-of in the deck, but you really only need 2 copies of this card. Then when this card is activated, you can special summon one of your level 4 or lower mutant monsters from your hand or that's banished, which is a great effect to be able to use later in the game. And mutant monsters that you control gain 100 attack for each of your banished mutant cards with different names. And once per turn, during your main phase, you can place 1 mutant monster from your hand on the bottom of your deck. And if you do, draw 1 card, which is a really good effect because basically all of your mutant boss monsters that are in the main deck between Mist, Arsenal, and Beast are a little bit of bricks if you draw into them. So this card helps out with that by putting them back in the deck and draw a card out of the deck. We then play 3 copies of E-Telly. E-Telly is really good in the deck because all of your low-level mutant monsters are psychic, and your copy of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit is also a psychic, making it super easy to make psychic in Punisher or make one of your mutant boss monsters by special summoning out ST46 or MO5 directly from the deck. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. Pot of Prosperity is really good in this deck to help you just dig into the deck to get the exact cards that you need so you can start your plays and really get some plays rolling. I love this card in this deck and it helps out a lot. You can play Pot of Extravagance if you want, but we do summon in this particular build quite a lot from the extra deck, so it is really helpful to play the Pot of Prosperity in this build. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Impermanence is a definite 3-of in this build that just helps you out a lot to stop your opponent's monster effects. This card is also really good because you can basically lock down entire spell and trap card columns with this card. We then play 3 copies of Mutant Cry. Mutant Cry is insanely powerful in this deck, and this card is basically a fusion trap card that during the main phase you get to fusion summon a mutant fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling the fusion materials listed on it into the deck from among cards on the field, in your graveyard, or face-up banished cards, and you can only activate 1 Mutant Cry per turn. This card is really good and helpful at making your copy of Mutant Synthesis, and is the main way we're actually going to summon it. We then play 3 copies of Mutant Expansion. This card is basically like 3 more copies of E-Telly in the deck, because when this card is activated, you can take 1 level 4 lower mutant monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or special summon it, which is just a crazy awesome effect. And if a level 8 or higher mutant monster you control would be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish this card that you control instead, which is a pretty good effect. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Mutant Synthesis. This card is so powerful in the deck, and it's just a really good boss monster that just requires 2 mutant monsters with different attributes. And if this card is fusion summoned, you can target 1 card on the field and destroy it. And when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can activate this effect for the rest of the turn. This face-up card is unaffected by the effects of the opponent's card with the same type, monster, spell, or trap, which is just a really cool effect about this card. and if this fusion summon card you control is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can add to your hand one banished mutant card, which is just a really good effect. You'll just add to your hand one of your banished mutant cards. I love that about this card. It's just such a powerful card in the deck. We then play a single copy of Mutant Ultimus. Ultimus is just a good one in the deck. You very rarely summon this card in this particular build because it does require 3 level 8 or higher mutant monsters to be able to make this card, but this card is basically a walking negate in the deck. It's really good. It's a 3,500 attack point monster, but it's so hard to summon it in this deck that you rarely summon it, which is why we just play a single copy. We then play a single copy of Psychic End Punisher. Psychic End Punisher is super easy to make in this deck just by activating E-Telly while you have any of your mutant level 8 monsters on your side of the field, summoning out Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit off the E-Telly, and then synchroing for this card. This card helps you close out games and gets absolutely massive depending on what your life points are, which is really good for this deck. It also is a spot removing card, which is just really good because you can pay 1,000 life points, target a monster that you control, and one card that your opponent controls, and banish them, which is great for this deck. We then play a single copy of Baron de Fleur. You can make this card in the deck extremely easily with your copy of your Stardust Dragon Excel Synchro, which is really easy to make in this deck. This card is a walking negate and really good at popping cards your opponent controls. We then play a single copy of Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon. This card is very easy to make in the deck off your copy of Gamma and Driver and helps you step into your copy of Baron de Fleur extremely easily. Because it has the ability, if this card is synchro summon, you can special summon one level 2 or lower tuner monster from your graveyard, which is always going to be the copy of your Gamma that you just synchroed away to summon out this card, which is very easy to then bring it back to your side of the field and then make Baron de Fleur. We then play a single copy of psy-frame Lord Omega. Omega is a good one-of in this build just to take a card out of your opponent's hand, especially if you're going first and you know your opponent's going to be relying on multiple cards in their hand. This card can just help you get rid of problem cards that your opponent might have. Usually I just make the copy of the Stardust Dragon Excel Synchro and then step into Baron de Fleur to have the negate, but this card does come in handy sometimes in the deck. We then play a single copy of Underworld Goddess. This is just really good to be able to make off of IP Masquerena during your opponent's turn to basically kaiju your opponent. We then play a single copy of Access Code to be able to pop multiple cards on the field. This card is great in the deck at popping multiple cards on the field. It's just a really awesome boss monster. Play a single copy of Nightmare Unicorn to spin stuff. This is just a really good card in the deck. One copy of Nightmare Phoenix to pop spells and traps. One copy of Lambda so that we can activate our copies of Gamma even though we control monsters. One copy of IP Masquerena to be able to make Unicorn or Underworld Goddess during the opponent's turn. And finally, one copy of Cross Sheep. Cross Sheep's really good in this deck as well because we do fusion summon in this build, so this card does come in handy sometimes in the deck to be able to special summon a level 4 lower monster from our graveyard, which can come up every so often. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Mutant before, you definitely should give this deck a try. It's super fun, it's extremely powerful, and it's a really, really good deck. I love this deck, being able to play it, and it's very consistent. So, anyways, guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of our notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.